Well, our next guest is especially relieved to hear the news of Peter Gresta's release. Sue Turton is an Al Jazeera journalist. She was part of the team in Egypt when Mohamed Morsi was forced from power and Al Jazeera's bureau was shut down. She was also charged with aiding terrorists and spreading false news. But she avoided the fate of her colleagues by leaving the country. Sue Turton joins us now from London. So, Sue, what was your reaction? How did you feel when you heard Peter Gresta was released and was on his way back home?
My initial reaction was, to be honest, one of relief. We'd been hearing over the course of the last 24 hours that it was on the cards that he would be deported. But I don't think I actually believed it until he called my boss and said, what's the one voice you'd really like to hear? And she said, well, Peter Gresta. And he said, well, that's who it is. And he was actually in the departure lounge at Cairo Airport about to get on the plane. So we all breathed a sigh of relief that it was true. But all of this relief is really tinged with worry that the other two guys are still in prison. And there is talk that maybe Mohamed Fahmy may also be released soon. He, of course, is half Canadian and could be deported to Canada. But our biggest worry is Baha Mohammed, our fixer, who is completely Egyptian and really who has nothing but to wait for the retrial and hope that the justice system in Egypt will find him not guilty.
Sue, how confident are you that your other two colleagues will be released?
Well, I'm not confident. I suppose I'm slightly confident that Mohamed Fahmy will be released. I mean, until he actually walks out of that prison, I can't count my chickens. But the sort of signs are the same as they were for Peter Gresta. So hopefully that is a good thing, and that means he's soon to be out. But I am not confident at all for Baha. I'm very worried. I know his wife is worried. I know she's been in tears today because she's worried now that Peter Gresta's out, and if then Mohamed Fahmy is out, then the media attention will just dissipate and Baha will be left.
Mm-hmm. So as we mentioned, you had left Egypt just before your colleagues were arrested. How tense were things in that country at that time before you left? Did you know what was coming?
None of us knew this was going to happen, but we were all aware of a very heavy press crackdown, not just myself, but the other foreign journalists who were working in Cairo at the time. Ever since after the coup, there really was a squeeze on reporters, and we were intimidated. Some people were beaten up, others were locked up for some time. But we never anticipated that there would be arrest warrants out for our reporters. But even now, I don't know if you heard, but just last week, a very, very well-respected journalist for the BBC, Orla Guerin, she was reporting that the Muslim Brotherhood were being rounded up just last week on the anniversary of the revolution, and she was told by a plainclothes policeman that if she carried on filming, she would be shot. And that just shows that, even over a year after our guys were locked up, that things really haven't improved on the streets of Egypt.
No, in fact, it sounds quite dangerous. Sue, you've said that a wave of guilt hit you on the day that your colleagues were arrested. Take us through what was going through your head at that time.
I think that because I'd been working there during the sort of weeks and the months after the coup, and we'd all gone quiet, we'd gone dark, I think we called it, because there was this pressure on us. I became the special correspondent, we're not naming for security reasons. Really, we sort of thought, oh, well, things have improved and nothing's happened over the coming weeks, and we went back on air, and I was the one that went first, and I kind of said to the boss, if we're going to be in Egypt, we might as well do the job properly. We shouldn't really be hiding and not sort of releasing who we are or where we are. So we did. We went back on screen, and I mean, obviously that was months before the guys were arrested. But I sat back and thought, oh my God, if we hadn't done that, maybe the guys would never have been arrested and put in prison.
Mm-hmm. I'd imagine a lot of what-ifs go through your head, Sue. You have also been charged with the same offense as Peter Gresta, a 10-year prison sentence for allegedly aiding terrorists and spreading false news. Where do things stand for you?
Yeah, well, nothing changes for me. We are, even with the retrial that's been called by the appeal court, that doesn't make any difference. Unless I go to Egypt, I'm arrested and put in prison, then they can't even consider the charges against me, the conviction against me. So I still have 10-year prison sentence over my head. I'm not minded to go to Egypt. So only two things really could happen to remove that, either a change of government and a change of attitude, or indeed a pardon by the Egyptian president.
Sue, how satisfied were you with how Al Jazeera and the government of Qatar handled this case? It has taken 13 months.
Yeah, it's easy in hindsight to say we should have done this and we should have done that. And when we looked at the court case, I don't think anybody that was covering it for the Western media ever believed that we would be found guilty. And now we look back at it, and of course we were. Then, hey, that may well be what we should have concentrated on more. But it's very easy to say that after the event. We did what we thought at the time was right. We campaigned as harshly and as fervently as we could, and we'll consider doing that even to the last breath to make sure Mohammed Fahmy and Baha are out.
Yeah, and I understand that Al Jazeera was launching a campaign. The staff was #FreeAJ staff. Do you think that helped in securing the freedom of your colleagues at all?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I understand that Al Jazeera had started a campaign, Free AJ Staff. I take it that was on Twitter. Do you think that helped at all in securing the freedom of your colleagues?
I think it put pressure on the government. I think that the government and the state of Egypt's tourism industry has really suffered over the last few years, and really it's flatlining. The economy is really struggling. And I think what it did was it showed the world that this was going on, and possibly the image of Egypt was dented, and that translated, I think, to the Egyptian government that they need to get rid of this problem, and that was clear from President Sisi's own comments that they really hoped that this had never happened. He said if he'd been in charge, they would have never jailed the journalists at all. So, and I do also know that from the guys inside, they were saying during the court case, the media campaign has helped the conditions for us because the prison officers know that, what's happening to us is being watched around the world. I don't know whether it really helped get them out in the end. All we could do is make some noise. That's what we did as journalists. Maybe it did make a difference.
Well, certainly, I'm sure you did everything you could, and it's been a difficult 13 months for you as well, Sue. I can still hear the anxiety in your voice. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us, and congratulations on having one of your journalists be released. And hopefully over the coming days, we will see the others, including Mohammed Fahmy, on their way home. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to talk to you.